Hey there, CIS240. Welcome to session 7. In this session, we're going to take a little bit of a departure. Instead of marching forward with new content, we are going to kind of put a cap on all of the content that we have done to date, and we are going to do the midterm. Now, look, I know that the midterm here is early. There are two reasons for this. Number one, with the content that's coming up in chapter 7, this was a really good place to do the midterm just because it doesn't it's not chapter 7 is really a hinge point where we move drastically forward. So it didn't make sense to include that in the midterm. The other reason I actually kind of don't hate doing the midterm now is that me and every other wackadoodle instructor that you have is going to give you the midterm on the same date otherwise, right? So that's going to mean going into next week, you are going to have 3 or 4 or 5 classes, all of whom are like, you want it? It's the midterm. Here it comes. And of course, the answer is no, I don't want to take the midterm. So rather than crush you underneath 1,000 midterms in 1 week, it's 999 because one of us did it a week early. So I think actually that this turns out pretty good. Let me just give you a couple of pointers here on how to manage the midterm. Number one, you can take one shot at it. Don't mess it up. Number two, you cannot work with other individuals on it. So no phoning a friend, no doing it together, none of that stuff. This is on you without help. Now, speaking of help, can you use any and all of your previous work? Can you use the textbook? Absolutely. Can you use any and all of the previous video content in here? Absolutely. Let me tell you about how I ask the questions. All of them are superficial. I am not what I don't find any psychic income in tripping up students when they're taking a test because you're already, some of you, shitting bricks having to take a test in the first place. Testing, by the way, here in 240 just allows us to do, it's called ICCB. We're able to actually transfer your credits to NIU because we've got this testing thing in there that gives us easy. Anyway, so it's not my preference to give you these, but actually it turns out that most of you are going to actually benefit from being able to transfer this class out as a result. I did want to put that in here. So I am not tripping you up with the questions. So if you are reading and rereading a question and like, how is Wolf going to trip me up on this one? That is absolutely not what my intention was. They are superficial, glancing questions, skin deep. So I don't, or I try not to, use artificially complex language. These are really just skin deep questions. So honest to buttons, I'm not trying to muck you up on those. You can go back and forth through the exam as many times as you would like. Just make sure that you do not hit the submit button beforehand, because once you hit the submit button, I'm going to see that as submitted. There is no time on this, so you have the entire 7 days here to be able to take the midterm. My suggestion to you is when you are finished with a question, make sure that you go to the next one, because doing so will actually save your progress. If you are going to walk away from the computer, which is totally okay, in the middle of taking your exam, just make sure that you close that window out. When you come back to the exam later on, it's going to start you off from the question that you were on, and you can just keep going from there. My other two suggestions are: do not use Firefox, and do not use, well, if you're using Microsoft Internet Explorer, stop using it entirely. But do not use Firefox and do not use Safari. There's a weird timeout issue whereby if you do not listen to the thing I said 3 moments ago about, you have all the time in the world, but if you're going to walk away, close the window. Firefox and Safari have a timeout that disagrees with the way that Eagle looks at a timeout. And it's very, very rare, but I really think I have legitimately seen it submit 3 students' scores over the years. Now, that's not a very, very high density issue, but for each one of those 3 students, I assure you that they panicked entirely more than I thought was necessary. So just don't use Edge, Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer, Firefox, or Safari. Please use Edge and Chrome, because those will let you do whatever you want about that whole timeout issue, and they never time you out, because as long as Chrome is still running, it's getting your data. So Chrome is like, leave it open as long as you like, because I'm just going to keep moving data along. So those are my suggestions there. There's just a host of questions in there. They're all superficial. You can go forwards and back. You can use your text. You cannot use other people. You can use any and all of your previous developments. You also can use any and all of the previous videos to be able to do it. And then starting with the start of session 8, we will look at chapter 6 materials. If I said 6 and 7 earlier, I just got them reversed. So it's 6 is the place where we crux moving forward. So if you have any questions on the exam, you can ask. I won't be able to tell you, yes, the answer is B or anything like that. But if my language is strange, I think that you should be able to reach out and ask a question about it, and I will do what I can to help you clear that up. So that is the only thing you have on your docket for this week. If you have any previous assignments where I said make these changes, resubmit, message me and get half the points back, so that would be for chapters 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you have any of those outstanding, this is the last week that I will take those. So get back there and do that resubmission work, because moving forward, we just want to keep moving forward. I don't want to create this huge cascade of assignments that are going to come through on like session 15. That's not good for either of us. So resubmissions, if I gave you that opportunity on 2, 3, 4, and 5, are due at the end of this week as well. So that's plenty enough on your plate. So have at it, 240.